We wanted to see what the food pyramid would look like if it reflected where the government farm subsidies actually end up. Look at this. Since 1995, meat and dairy got about 3 times the subsidies of grains. According to data from the Department of Agriculture and the Environmental Working Group, sugars, fats, the foods government says we should eat least got about 20 times more subsidies than fruits and vegetables.
There's a disconnect between agricultural policy and health policy. That's probably the biggest problem that the federal government faces. We don't look at how agricultural policy can help improve public health. It's strictly about subsidies.
And does government know this?
Government knows it. I'm not sure government at the moment knows what to do about it. How do you undo government policy that has not been focused on health and nutrition?
Beef cattle were never intended to eat corn, and so they have to be given all sorts of antibiotics to keep them healthy. Subsidized corn is everywhere. The whole food system has been, as someone said, cornified. Corn is processed and put into thousands of products that Americans use every day.
There you go, enjoy the show.
If you want to see more directly how farm subsidies can lead to obesity, there is no better place than your local theater. The popcorn you eat here is made with subsidized corn.
1 large popcorn? Sure, no problem.
The popcorn is so inexpensive that the bag it comes in costs more than the popcorn. That's why you can buy the mega size for just a few pennies more. The oil they cook it in is subsidized too, and so is the oil they put on top. That is not usually butter, but subsidized vegetable oil. And there's corn in the soda, a corn-derived sweetener called high fructose corn syrup. Since the 1970s, its use has gone up more than 4,000%. Subsidized corn sweeteners, which have pretty much taken over from sugar, are in candy and pretzels and some hot dogs too.
Is there something else I can get you tonight, like a hot dog or a nice warm pretzel?
The Journal of Biological Sciences. I looked that up, one of the most prestigious in the world. But I've literally seen hundreds of confirmed studies on this group of corn alone. It is MON 863 and NK 603 that grows a live pesticide in the corn so bugs won't eat it. Well, what do you think poison does? Like liquor, it eats your liver. Well, it's the same thing with this. Monsanto GMO corn linked to organ failure study reveals. In a study released by the International Journal of Biological Sciences analyzing the effects of genetically modified foods on mammalian life, that's us, mammals, researchers found that agricultural giant Monsanto's GM corn is linked to organ damage in rats. It's also the stuff killing the honeybees, because they'll still eat the pollen. According to the study, which was summarized by, and it goes through that, 3 varieties of Monsanto GM corn, MON 863, insecticide-producing MON 810, and Roundup herbicide-absorbing NK 603. See, these plants will live in poison because they absorb it, but then the poison's in it. Everything else is killed. We approved the consumption by U.S., European, and several other national food safety authorities. And it just goes into the effects. This is from the study. We're mostly concentrated in the kidney, liver function, the 2 major diet detoxification organs. And then it goes into how it hit other areas of the body, though. Jeez. Man, folks.
Nerve gas, developed during World War II, was slightly modified to make insecticides. DDT was the hero of its generation. New technologies promised higher yields, increased food production, cheaper prices, and greater availability. By the mid-20th century, these technologies, along with new developments in plant breeding, led to the Green Revolution. 97% of the varieties of vegetables grown at the beginning of the 20th century are now extinct. Genetic uniformity leads to an increased vulnerability to insects and disease. Farmers found themselves trapped on a pesticide treadmill. The more they sprayed, the more they had to spray. The increased use of fertilizers, pesticides, and herbicides increased costs, polluted water, and created health risks. Then in the 1970s, Monsanto introduced Roundup. Because of its ability to kill most weeds, it became one of the most popular herbicides in history. In the mid-1990s, building on technologies that used gene splicing, the Green Revolution turned into the Gene Revolution. Capitalizing on the new technology, Monsanto genetically modified its seeds to be Roundup ready. Normally, Roundup kills anything green, but if the plant is Roundup ready, when it is sprayed, it doesn't die. Monsanto's Bt corn, the corn itself is registered as an insecticide. This is because every cell has been engineered to manufacture Bt, a natural bacterial toxin. If a corn borer eats any part of the plant, it will die. All species have developed elaborate mechanisms over millions of years to protect their cells from invasion from foreign DNA. Genetic engineers have to overcome the integrity of the species barrier to insert a new genetic trait into a plant or animal. Currently, both agriculture and medical biotechnology use genetic engineering. Medical biotechnology has created many life-saving products. These pharmaceuticals are made under controlled conditions in secure labs. Genetically modified plants, unlike drugs, reproduce, and once released into the environment, cannot be controlled.
Using biotechnology to produce food is not new. For nearly 6,000 years, people have used yeast, a living organism, to make bread rise. And we've used biotech for almost as long to ferment beer and wine.
So genetic engineering is really a radical revolution in food production. It's really a cell invasion technology. You know, people have heard they're taking a flounder gene and putting it in tomato so the tomato can last in cold temperatures. But people ask, how does that flounder gene get in that tomato? How does it get in there? And what really happens is, the only way you can do it is to invade the cell of the tomato and deposit the flounder gene. Well, what's good at invading cells? Bacteria and viruses.
After 12 years of searching, Monsanto found a soil bacteria that is naturally immune to Roundup herbicide. Their goal was to genetically engineer DNA from these bacteria into various plants. Some of the E. coli DNA recombines with the Roundup-resistant bacteria. Then the technicians smuggle the engineered DNA into the cells of the corn plant they want to modify. Cells will naturally reject foreign DNA, so they developed a method using soil bacteria that causes tumors in plants. They use this bacteria to ferry the engineered DNA into the plant's nucleus.
This capacity of bacteria and viruses to invade mammals in different ways is what really has a lot of people edgy about biotechnology, because that's really what the tools are all about. In order to move genetic material from one organism to another that don't normally cross, you've got to sort of behave like bacteria and viruses and invade into the cells and become established, just like a virus must become established.
And they do one more thing. They attach to that an antibiotic marker system.
The antibiotic marker is a gene which is naturally resistant to a specific antibiotic, so later they can test whether the genetic cassette is being expressed.
The most cataclysmic force in the food system right now is the fact that the medical community is just terrified about the loss of antibiotics. no one really understands how using antibiotic marker genes in genetic engineering techniques might contribute to the problem. The biomedical community on a worldwide basis is absolutely focused on this problem now.